5,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, the Republic was not the only galactic powerhouse. Along the Outer Rim, the Sith numbers were many and hungry for war. Eventually, one Sith Lord would emerge and lead the Sith in battle against the Galactic Republic. Born on Zayas, Sith-human hybrid Naga Sadow was born. Sadow would eventually make his way to Korriban, the capital of the old Sith Empire. Sadow's force potential was eventually discovered, beginning his training with Simus, a rival of the great Marka Ragnos. Simus would duel Marka Ragnos for the title of Sith Lord, however he was beheaded during the duel. The Sith Empire would advance into its golden age. During this time, Sadow would perfect his skills in Sith sorcery and alchemy, as well as perfecting his dueling skills. However, 5,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, Marka Ragnos died, becoming one of the darkest days of the old Sith Empire's history. During the funeral, Sadow engaged rival Sith Lord Ludo Kresh for control over the Sith Empire. In the middle of the battle, the spirit of the great Sith appeared and warned Sadow and Kresh that the balance of the Sith hung in their ability to lead the Sith people. Whether by luck or destiny, two hyperspace explorers, Gav and Jory Darrigan, landed on Korriban. The two would be imprisoned and Sadow masterminded a plan. Sadow claimed they were a sign of an incoming Republic invasion. The plot ascended into Naga Sadow becoming the Dark Lord of the Sith. Ludo Kresh and his followers would make an attempt on Sadow's life, but his forces were destroyed by Sadow, forcing Kresh and his followers to go into exile. Sadow, now being the only Sith Lord, launched a huge invasion of the Galactic Republic. With this, the Great Hyperspace War had begun. Sadow would use his powerful Sith sorcery to cast illusions against his enemies and even lower their morale. The Republic, however, with the help of the Jedi, were able to turn the tide and push the Sith attack back. Sadow would eventually be betrayed by his apprentice and was forced to flee back to Korriban. However, an old rival was waiting. Ludo Kresh attacked Sadow's fleet. However, Sadow was finally able to defeat his rival once and for all. With the Jedi on his tail, Sadow faked his own death and took up refuge on the moon Yavin 4 and placed himself into stasis. Sadow would be woken up by the fallen Jedi Knight Freedin Nad, and after training Ned in the ways of the dark side, Nad would kill Sadow once and for all. Naga Sadow is remembered for being one of the greatest Sith sorcerers of all time. Naga Sadow would not be the only Sith Lord to engage the Republic. 4,000 years later, the Clone Wars would begin, and leading this new confederacy was their Sith Lord, Darth Tyranus. Born on Sereno 102 years before the Battle of Yavin, Count Dooku was a human male in his older years. His family was a noble family, and Dooku was granted the title of Count. Dooku was taken to the Jedi Temple as a young boy and was becoming a promising prospect, being trained by Grand Master Yoda himself. As a master, Dooku would go on to train great Jedi Knight Qui-Gon Jinn and Kamari Vosa. After the disastrous Battle of Galadran, Dooku's faith in the Jedi Order was shooken, and after the death of Qui-Gon, Dooku left the Order. However, looking for a new apprentice with experience, Darth Sidious revealed his identity to Dooku. Fascinated with Sith lore, Dooku would go on and join Sidious, becoming Darth Tyranus. Dooku, under Sidious's command, would help form the Confederacy of Independent Systems. As the political leader for the CIS, Dooku would lead the Confederacy while his master led the Republic. This galactic struggle was known as the Clone Wars. Dooku would recruit and train countless military officials and dark acolytes to lead the droid army. Some of these include Asajj Ventress, Dirge, General Grievous, and Sora Bulk. As good as Dooku was with force augmentation, he was declining in skill as he grew in age, and was eventually defeated by his replacement, Anakin Skywalker, aboard Invisible Hand. Dooku is remembered as one of the most renowned swordsmen of the Jedi Order. Hey guys, Terra here, and welcome to the very next episode of Versus. I can't say this enough. I'm sorry that it takes so long for these to get out. They're like my most watched videos, and yet I don't seem to get them out as often as I should. But this time I have a great excuse. This video was actually, I'm going to say, 85% complete when the Beast was put together. So I had it all done on the laptop, and then my brother wanted it back, so I couldn't save it or anything, so I had to scrap everything and start over here on the Beast, but that's alright, I guess. But another reason that this was so delayed was because originally I was supposed to do this with Toast. It was supposed to be a collaboration. I was supposed to do Sadow, and he was going to do Dooku. But that never worked out because my laptop was broke when he was in town for Thanksgiving, when we were going to record all the audio and stuff for this. So that's kind of why this just took so long to get out. The next one's already researched. Just have to get the videos. Just have to do the audio, which is kind of actually the longer part, I guess. But so there's the reason why this took so long. But the battle. Let's get straight to the versus battle. We have Dooku, who is a very actually good Sith Lord if you actually go, if you, like, in the movies they make him look really weak and stuff, but like if you actually read about him and all of his stuff, he's really powerful. Originally he was supposed to be we were supposed to have Darth Maul, but then we figured, no, let's do someone more elegant. Let's throw in Dooku. And then Sadow, I really wanted to just use someone from the old Republic, not so much SWATOR, but past KOTOR, like not Exar Kun, because he'd be too powerful for Dooku, I think. With all of his... Actually, no, that actually might be an alright matchup. But we went with Sadow because he just looks freaking cool. That's basically why we went with Naga Sadow, because he looks cool. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the verses, and if you want to see more, comment, like, subscribe, and enjoy the video. First, we will compare them physically. Naga Sadow is a human-Sith hybrid believed to be more than a century in age. Even though he is very old, he is in his physical prime. He does not show any fatigue in battle and is able to keep up with much younger opponents. Also, the Korriban Sith species is known to be much tougher than humans, and Naga Sadow is shown to be extremely tough, surviving an attack to his meditation sphere. Darth Tyranus is an elderly human male in his mid-80s and is in remarkable condition for a man of his years. However, he is well past his physical prime and relies heavily on his Force augmentation. Dooku also doesn't seem to be affected greatly by dark side degradation, and only at times has sported the yellow eyes common among Sith Lords. This should be pretty obvious. Dooku is in his mid-80s, however Naga Sadow is a sentry. Dooku has been shown to keep up with younger combatants all through the Clone Wars, however he's never faced a physical tank like Naga Sadow, the closest being Anakin Skywalker, which was his final duel. Dooku relies heavily on Force augmentation, while Sadow is shockingly in his physical prime. Naga Sadow is also a Sith-human hybrid, a species that is much tougher than humans. Dooku's age does play a role in this fight, and if he gets tired, Sadow will be able to capitalize. Therefore, I declare Naga Sadow the winner in terms of physical attributes. Next, we will compare them as martial artists and lightsaber duelists. Although Naga Sadow is primarily a Force user, he isn't afraid to draw his sword and is a very refined duelist. Due to the era he lived in, Naga Sadow has a very traditional dueling style. His style isn't stated, but due to the era he lived in, we can make an educated guess that he specializes in Form 1, Shi-Cho, and Form 2, Makashi, as they were the most common at the time of the Great Hyperspace War. Form 1, Shi-Cho, focuses on letting the flow of battle work with you and having very random strikes and very random foot placement. Although it is god-awful against a single opponent, when put in the hands of a master such as Lucien Dre, it can be very deadly. Form 2, Makashi, focuses on lightsaber dueling and is very precise. When in a duel, this is the most likely form that Sadow would prefer to use, as it is geared towards lightsaber combat. It is very elegant and very deadly. However, as previously stated, Sadow primarily likes to use his Force powers and has had very few battles with his sword, most of them against his rival Ludo Kresh. Even though he is primarily a Force user, I do believe he isn't that bad of a duelist. After all, he was able to duel Ludo Kresh, who in my opinion is the better of the two in terms of lightsaber combat. Count Dooku, before his fall to the dark side, was considered a renowned swordsman of the Jedi Order and has had decades to perfect his lightsaber style. Dooku was such a well-developed dueler that in the novel Yoda, Dark Brown Nephew, it was stated that only Mace Windu and Yoda could match Dooku in a duel. However, at the time of Revenge of the Sith, this isn't so much the case. Driven by a competitive spirit, Dooku chose to specialize in the classical dueling lightsaber style of Form 2 Makashi, which focused on fluidity and precision. Dooku relied on accurate strikes and a balanced footwork. Dooku preferred to outmaneuver his opponents and deflect their attacks rather than meeting them head-on. He based himself around balance and mobility and drilled himself to the point that all of his moves were executed by instinct. Dooku was effective against shooters as well as multiple opponents, depicted in the Clone Wars TV show where he was able to defeat Ventress and 3 other Dathomirian witches. Shooters and multiple opponents are the primary weakness of Makashi, however Dooku is very efficient against these weaknesses, making his style almost invincible. Dooku also shows skill in unarmed combat as he was able to defeat a pirate while handcuffed. Dooku has been shown to be able to lure his opponents to a location of his choice, just like Darth Maul did in his duel against Dooku's apprentice Qui-Gon Jinn. Another edge to Dooku's style was the overall rarity of Makashi. As newer lightsaber forms and styles began to form, Makashi was used less and less. However, in this fight that wouldn't be the case, as Naga Sadow is a specialist in Makashi himself. Offensively, Dooku was very deadly and highly efficient. Defensively, he was very accurate and minimalist in his moves, a deadly combination. Dooku also has been shown to incorporate Force abilities into his style. On the contrast, Dooku is overconfident and has been shown to make extremely stupid mistakes. In all, Dooku is one of the best swordsmen of his era. Naga Sadow may have skill in Makashi, but Sadow's fights against other Force users are far from, and Sadow has never had to duel a Force user the caliber of Dooku. Dooku also is the absolute master of Makashi and has also been able to hold his own against some of the greatest duelists of his era, including Grandmaster Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And before the Clone Wars, it was stated that the only Jedi in the entire Order that could even last with Dooku in a fight were Grandmaster Yoda and Mace Windu. It is my belief that Sadow wouldn't try to incorporate Chicho in this fight, as it is horrible against single opponents. Sadow can use Makashi, but Sadow's Makashi is at best mediocre compared to Dooku, who has had decades of perfecting his style. Therefore, I declare Count Dooku the victor as a duelist and martial artist. Next, we will compare their Force abilities. Digging deep into forbidden Sith teachings, Naga Sadow was able to unlock abilities far beyond his fellow Sith. Sadow is a complete master of Sith alchemy and magic, using it to various degrees. He was able to create curses and spells to confuse his opponents, as well as control beasts, suggesting some ability in the beast trick ability and mind manipulation. Naga Sadow was proficient in Force lightning. Sadow's lightning, in my mind, would have to be one of his greatest features. I don't think it would cripple an opponent in mere seconds like Darth Sidious did to Luke aboard the second Death Star. Sadow's lightning would be more on the level of a Darth Malgus and would be very devastating if used at the right time in battle. Sadow's Force grips were very strong, and he used them to attack his opponents, disorienting them and confusing them. As I stated earlier, during the Great Hyperspace War, Sadow locked himself into a meditation sphere and utilized battle meditation to an expert level that, even more impressive, would cast illusions so real it would make his armies look twice the size than they actually were. These illusions could actually cast damage to a variant of degree. Sadow was also able to cause solar flares and even make stars explode, causing fucking solar systems to be destroyed. However, he could only perform this in his Force-imbued ships, such as his meditation pod, that would need time in order to perform. Darth Tyranus was an extremely powerful Force user, renowned in the Jedi Order for his skill and his overall knowledge of the Force. His telekinetic skills were very advanced, being able to lift all 12 council chairs at once with very little difficulty, and later was able to perform personal levitation, a very impressive skill. In combat, Dooku liked to incorporate telekinetic strikes into his sequence in order to stagger and off-balance his opponents. Dooku was even capable of breaking through the Force shields of other Force users, often choking them out or throwing them around. However, he has only done this rarely. Dooku's skill and telepathy were also very strong, being skilled in the Jedi mind trick, and is able to rip information from his foe's mind. He was able to use this skill to tame animals, showing skill in the beast trick. Dooku has tamed a crate dragon as a pet, a crate dragon being one of the deadliest creatures in all of Star Wars. Dooku is also able to cleanse his body of poisons if he can detect what poison it is. His skill in this varies, as he was able to cleanse himself of the Kartos plague of Conquered Dawn, unable to cleanse himself of a simple Night Sister poison which neutralized his sight. Dooku is a practice-handed Force lightning, incorporating it into his attacks, and just to torture people. Most people have little difficulty defending themselves against this attack. Dooku has a wide variety of moves at his disposal, but the moves he incorporates into battle, Sadow can easily defend against. On the contrary, the same can be said for Sadow's moveset against Dooku. The X factor is Sadow's alchemy. If he can get a curse or a spell off, Dooku is a sitting duck and would be destroyed in mere seconds. Naga Sadow gets the edge as a Force wielder, however slight it may be. Next, we will compare their armament and tools. Since Naga Sadow lived in an era where lightsabers were hard to come by, especially for the Sith Empire with its limited resources, Sadow used a Force-imbued poisoned Sith sword, and in my mind is beautifully crafted. These swords were very common in the old Sith Empire, especially during its golden age. The way this works is the user would put dark side energy into the sword, and in some cases their spirits, so only they could wield them correctly. On the contrary, these swords for the time were very archaic and constructed out of crystal, making them extremely heavy. As much as I like these swords, their durability is in question, as they can block a lightsaber and even some low-end blaster bolts, but Ludocrash was able to smash his sword just out of pure muscle. Naga Sadow also wears some Sith amulets, however their strength and benefits is unknown. Count Dooku utilized a beautifully crafted curved-hilt single-bladed lightsaber. These lightsabers are designed for dueling and meant to be able to fit in the palm of the user more naturally. This also gave the user more blade control and more leverage on power attacks. Dooku could also change the angle of his blade while in combat, confusing opponents. At first his weapon utilized a single blue Adagan crystal, but after his fall to the dark side, he switched it for a single red synthetic crystal. This gave his weapon more cutting power for less maneuverability. This weapon was ideal for the Makashi and a perfect weapon for the Dark Lord. As much as I love Naga Sadow's Sith Poison Sword, it is nothing compared to Dooku's elegantly crafted curved-hilt lightsaber. Sadow's Sith sword is heavy and difficult to move. However, for as heavy as it is, Sadow uses it well. But in the end, a lightsaber is the better weapon and the more practical option. Therefore, I declare Count Dooku the victor in armament and tools. Finally, the verdict. I think this battle could play out in two ways. The two would meet on neutral grounds. Dooku would hurl an object at Sadow. Sadow would grip the object and throw it aside. Sadow, immediately after tossing the object aside, would shoot a storm of lightning at Dooku, who would use Tutiminis to block the lightning like it was nothing. Dooku would unleash a powerful force push and would stagger Sadow and immediately rush towards Sadow with his blade ignited. Sadow quickly would recover and reach for his sword. The two would continue dueling with Makashi, and Dooku would have the advantage, and most of the time Sadow was on the defense. However, Sadow's power attacks would stagger Dooku, and eventually Sadow would be able to grab Dooku by the throat. Dooku, after being grabbed, would unleash bolts of lightning into Sadow's stomach. In agony, Sadow would release Dooku, who would continue to shock him with Sith lightning. After a lengthy time, Dooku would stop his vicious attack, and would telekinetically force his lightsaber back to him. Dooku would then behead Sadow. However, the fight could start out with the two meeting on neutral grounds. Instead of Dooku making the first move, Sadow would immediately unleash a Sith spell, and Dooku would be easy prey for Sadow. To me, the second fight doesn't seem likely, as Dooku would not wait for a monster like Sadow to make up his mind on what he wants to do. It also would take a lot of energy and a decent amount of time for Sadow to keep using his alchemy. In my mind, Dooku wouldn't allow Sadow to muster up a spell, and the first fight is how I see the fight playing out. In the end, I declare Count Dooku the battered and beaten victor. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this next episode of Versus. Again, I apologize how it took so long to get out, and the next episode, hopefully I'll have out within 2 weeks. I actually have all the research done. I just need to actually make the video and record the audio, which in some cases is kind of difficult to do. But I'm going to try my best to get those out within the next couple weeks for you guys. I have a great end of the season, I guess, coming up. And if you guys want to see more other Versus, you can check out Kyle Katarn versus Galen Merrick. Or you can check out Obi-Wan versus Revan. And if you guys want to see more of these, comment, like, subscribe. And as always, guys, take care.